I heard that these Activision James Bond games were pretty good, so I wanted to check them out. I kind of like Call of Duty, especially the older ones, as they are fun and usually don't overstay their welcome. I usually just play through the campaign, and it's fine. So Quantum of Solace was a good way to start, I thought, as it seemed that it basically is just Call of Duty with James Bond. So I started up the old PS3 and loaded my P99 ready for action. And boy oh boy, action was what I got. As previously mentioned, this is basically Call of Duty, but you play as the Daniel Craig James Bond. And due to some complications in the production, if you want to know more, you can check out Matt McMuscle's video about it, which I will link in the description. You play mostly scenes from Casino Royale. I am not a James Bond fan, I have only watched a few. One of them was Quantum of Solace, but I think I never watched Casino Royale completely. So I was pretty confused about the whole story. Yeah, it's one of these movie tie-in games, but I wasn't mad. The action which is offered is pretty good. Almost all the time something explodes. If you shoot someone near a window or balcony, they fall over it. It's all great stuff. Even when playing on hard, it's not that difficult until you reach the last third or so, where it turns even more into Call of Duty and just throws armies at the player, which just overwhelm you as the battles take place in smaller areas and suddenly the enemies hit you when they take a shot. Early on in the game, they are more like stormtroopers or actual Bond goons, I guess. The settings in which you fight are quite varied. It ranges from Venice, some caves in South America and the desert. There are also a couple of varied mission objectives. While there is a whole lot of shooting, it stays kind of fresh for quite a bit, and only towards the end the battles become a bit tedious. It doesn't get too annoying, but it overstays its welcome just a little bit. Especially in the beginning, the weapons are really fun though. Every weapon you get in the campaign is like a breath of fresh air. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use the shotgun too much and some objectives are a bit confusing, especially the one on the train. There's also some stealth which you can use if you want, but failing a stealth objective doesn't cause a fail, but a shootout, which is fine, as the action is pretty good as I already mentioned, and usually you can just shoot your way through every situation. While the weapons in general are pretty fun, the grenades are almost useless. Bond throws like a little baby and I often found myself hitting the front of a cover instead of the enemy behind it. And even if you are able to throw it into an enemy position, the enemy usually is able to escape before it blows up. Unless you shoot the enemy, which makes the whole process almost useless. You can also shoot environmental hazards though. So something next to the enemy blows him up, blind him or shocks him. There's nothing too special about the shooting, there are no special abilities, no score or anything like that. It's just an FPS which turns into third person mode when taking cover, which works pretty well though. It's just a very solid Call of Duty clone, in which you even have collectibles similar to Call of Duty. But here there are phones with messages, pictures or audio logs. Some of them reveal environmental hazards or weapon locations. The cutscenes and story feel very rushed unfortunately, but as I mentioned before, the story is incomprehensible anyways, at least if you don't know the movies too well. While I usually need a story, the set pieces here were enough to keep me interested. It has pretty good level design for the most part, has visually interesting locations, and a lot of great action. I would go so far to call it one of the better Call of Duty games. I mean, it was developed by Treyarch and is made with the Call of Duty engine anyways. It's just an overall pleasant surprise after all. After all, the last Call of Duty I played was Call of Duty 3 for the PS3, which was terrible in my opinion. But this year I enjoyed a lot. There's even a Call of Duty museum-like bonus section, where you can check out the weapons, enemies and concept art for specific missions. Good stuff. While Quantum of Solace has some obvious flaws in the storytelling and the narrative itself, the gameplay was quite convincing. It's no masterpiece by any means, but something that was a whole lot of fun. The perfect game to stop thinking and just relax while taking out hundreds of bad guys. It even made me want to check out the Daniel Craig Bond movies, and if I had access to HBO Max or whatever it's called now, or where it streams, I would actually give it a watch. As is, I give Quantum of Solace a 007 out of 10, and I'm looking forward to the next one.